The Fed15 podcast is presented by Serving Those Who Serve, a financial planning practice serving federal government employees and retirees all over the country. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be taken as financial advice. All listeners should consult their personal advisors before taking any action. The opinions expressed by our hosts are their own and do not reflect the views, policies, or position of either Raymond James or Serving Those Who Serve. Securities are offered through Raymond James Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services are offered through Raymond James Financial Services Advisors, Inc. Serving Those Who Serve is not a registered broker-dealer and is independent of Raymond James Financial Services, Inc. Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of the Fed15 podcast presented by Serving Those Who Serve. Each week, we'll discuss the latest news and info that feds need to know in 15 minutes or less. So whether you are a seasoned federal employee or whether you're just starting out in your career, Fed15 has got you covered. So grab your coffee, kick back. We'll tell you what you need to know but might have missed in the federal space this week. We are your hosts. I am Katelyn Murray, and I am joined by Mr. Dan Sipe himself.
Indeed. And today, Katelyn, I'm the somewhat contrite Dan Sipe because one of our beloved listeners sent me an email and pointed out that at the beginning of our podcast from a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about back to the office mandates. I fumble-mouthed and initially said back to work and then corrected the back to the office. So I want to make it abundantly clear. Nobody knows better than we at Serving Those Who Serve that you have always been working and working hard. So I did correct it, but I should have also taken a moment to say, boy, that was stupid, Dan. It's back to the office because my feds are always working. So thanks to our beloved listener for pointing that out. Thank you for being patient with me. Everybody else who didn't email me and beat me up for that. And OG, we'll try and do better.
Wonderful. Yeah, no, for sure. Sometimes we have little misspeaks. We are minimally reworked, I would say. We're not. So we like to keep all of our dumb moments in, more or less.
Got it.
We got a lot that we're covering this week. So there's a really great article that is on the blog this week about, and I know this is a hot topic right now. I know people really want to know about this. What happens if federal employees are fired without cause? Mm-hmm. So we're digging into a little bit the legal protections that are there to protect feds, which we've talked about some on the podcast, but always good to have a refresher there. And then we've got another piece on Social Security, kind of digging beneath the headlines. There's been a lot of talk about Social Security and federal pensions, and we want to cover, some of the updates there and kind of where we're at. So Dan, before we dive into Social Security land, let's hear a little bit more about what happens to federal employees that are fired without cause. What sorts of legal recourse do they have?
Sure. And folks, understand, because of how many people we meet, I think we've had close to 700,000 people visit our website so far this year alone, which is fantastic. We are happy to be here as a resource. We really hear what's keeping people up at night. And a lot of misconceptions out there. Now, at the outset, need to say we're not attorneys, we're not employment attorneys, anything like that. We're not giving legal advice here. But there are some things that we can share that hopefully will bring you a little bit of sense of peace. So what happens if federal employees are fired without cause? What are the legal protections? So, with budget cuts, hiring freezes, and political tension, it's creating a lot of instability and a lot of anxiety. Rifts don't happen that often. It's been over 20 years since the last one. So it's not something that's fresh in people's mind. So, understanding your employment status and legal protection is really essential in these times. So we start with due process rights, what the law says about, firing federal employees. Probationary employees generally within the first year of service have limited protections. Now, career employees post probation have full due process rights under the Civil Service Reform Act. So agencies must justify termination with cause, typically related to performance or conduct, provide written notice, allow employees to respond, issue a final decision in writing, and offer an opportunity to appeal through the Merit System Protection Board. Probationary employees have limited protection. They can't be fired for discriminatory reasons or retaliation, for example, if they were a whistleblower. They may challenge the removal if it involves a prohibited personnel practice. This is where you really need to find, a solid labor attorney. We have a podcast up where we interviewed a really good one. So, they are out there. Merit Systems Protection Board. It's primarily a forum for appealing unjust removals. Now, it is subject to delays, lots of backup, especially during political transitions, but it remains a critical channel for challenging terminations. So what to do if you're facing termination or you've already received notice? Document everything. Save emails, take notes, keep copies of performance reviews. Now, act quickly. MSPB appeals usually must be filed within 30 days of the removal's effective date. Understand your whistleblower protections. Political retaliation or protected disclosures may be grounds for a defense. Seek legal counsel. Don't try and do this on your own. Experts familiar with federal employment law can assist in appeals and negotiations. And plan for the unexpected. Even if you win the case, have emergency savings or request TSP hardship withdrawals if needed. We're generally not a fan of that, but this would be an unprecedented thing. Prioritize essential debts to safeguard credit and stability. Review and adjust your federal benefits. Make sure you're not paying for things that you don't need. Understand your pension status and potential retirement delays. We can help you with that. Hit us up at Serving Those Who Serve. We have the software to show what a discontinued service retirement is going to look like. And people may be eligible for that and not know it. Okay? I don't think it ever hurts to work with a CFP, experience in federal benefits, and develop contingency plans to help reduce stress and improve your overall preparedness. Above all, folks, understand you're not alone. There are folks out there in the legal profession. We're here at Serving Those Who Serve to make sure that you can get the information you need to make the best decisions. So don't be a stranger. Now, Katelyn, let's dig through the headlines and hype and even a little bit of the scary words and get to some of the truth about Social Security and federal pensions that our feds need to know.
Of course. Yeah. So we've got a really comprehensive piece on the blog this week about kind of the current state of Social Security. And I do have a little bit of an update released recently since that article was published for you as well. A positive update. So back in January of 2025, on January 20th, an executive order was signed to create the Department of Government Efficiency, known as DOGE, popularly, to implement cost-saving initiatives. And after that executive order was signed, there was a lot of concern when DOGE began targeting the Social Security database.
Sure.
It sparked a lot of fears of benefit cuts and potential political retaliation, that kind of speculation. And this has been a source of anxiety, obviously, for folks, for feds and non-feds alike, with regard to Social Security. We want to reassure you that as of today, right now, the recording of this podcast, which is in May 2025, no Social Security benefits have been cut. Okay? So there haven't been cut. In fact, there actually has been a bit the opposite. We saw the Social Security Fairness Act of 2024, which was officially passed and signed into law in January 2025, which repealed the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset. Now, this had a huge impact for CSRS and CSRS offset employees and spouses, retirees as well, kind of included in that group, as they were able to claim potentially retroactive benefits. And as of March 4th, 2025, the Social Security Administration has paid $7.5 billion to 1.2 billion individuals in retroactive payments due directly to the Social Security Fairness Act of 2024. Now, these changes, of course, benefit feds and spouses that were affected by the prior rules. So this is actually, a positive thing. Another thing that we want to mention, another, recent change with Social Security in the past quarter, during the pandemic, the Social Security Administration limited their recovery of overpayments where they've overpaid you and they need to recoup what they overpaid you, they limited that to 10% of your monthly benefit throughout the pandemic to kind of get folks through that time. Beginning on March 27th of 2025, the Social Security Administration resumed 100% deductions to recover overpayments, which could, on the opposite side of the scale, significantly reduce monthly checks for folks who are subject to having received an overpayment and needing to kind of balance things out. Okay. With regard to, obviously there are a lot of changes going on with regard to federal pensions. Don't want to get into that in this specific because I want to keep us, a little bit focused on Social Security. But one thing to know is that, with the current legislation that is moving through, the wheels of government, there are some potential changes on the table for FERS. Okay, we've heard about potentially a switch from high 3 to high 5. We've heard about potentially dropping the Social Security supplement. With that in mind, because the FERS retirement, talking FERS now, not CSRS, because the FERS retirement is a three-legged stool, investment, portfolio, you guys have heard me say this before, FERS pension, and Social Security, not directly related to Social Security, but because that pension piece is a little wiggly, and it could have some changes, you need to start looking at ways to protect yourself, ways to fortify your other legs on that stool. So looking at your TSP contributions
Absolutely.
is a pretty good thing to do. FERS employees receive an automatic 1% agency contribution, and you can contribute up to 5% as an employee so that you can receive a 4% match. That's going to reinforce your investment portfolio leg. Another thing you could look at doing is establishing some retirement savings accounts on your own. Depending on where your income is at, a Roth IRA could be a really good idea to build up some, tax-free assets in retirement. Obviously, with Roth, you pay the taxes on the way in so that growth is tax-free there. And it's always good to do a thorough review of your expenses and your debt. This is something that I think is good to do at the most frequent level, probably once a quarter. You don't want to be doing this every week. You don't want to be doing this every month because then we're getting into disordered behavior and we're trying to control every single thing. And that's not good. Most frequent, you want to do this once a quarter. Least frequent, you want to do it at least once a year. You want to review your expenses, review your monthly budget, review your debt situation, assess those recurring expenses that are happening. Do you really need that SiriusXM subscription that you pay for every month? Are you using it? Or are you hooking Spotify up to your phone as soon as you're getting in the car so that you can listen to the music that you want on demand? Either way, this is not a Spotify ad. Spotify, please sponsor us. I'm just kidding. But you want to look at your mortgage payment. You want to look at how much interest you're paying there. You want to look at outstanding debt, any consumer debt that you have. And you also want to look at, I'll add your savings rate. What are you saving to, and how much of your annual income are you putting away for future you? This is going to help you prepare for potential early retirement if that comes to pass, employment disruption if that comes to pass, or adjustments to Social Security or your pension that could be down the line. We want to make sure that we're staying proactive, not reactive. Sensational headlines, and we see this all the time with regard to Social Security. Those sensational headlines can lead to panic. Decisions that are made out of panic are rarely good ones. Okay? So take a calm, strategic approach to improve your long-term financial stability. Again, those regular check-ins with yourself, I call them money dates, where you can sit down and really get a handle on things. And of course, a CFP with expertise in federal employee benefits can help you clarify your options and really create those personalized strategies to just kind of take things to the next level. So that's that on that. And the update that I promised you that I would give you with regard to Social Security, another bit of positive news. The timeline due to the annual Social Security Board of Trustees report. So they release this report every year. They released it on Monday, May 19th. And according to that timeline, they don't think that they'll need to cut benefits at all until 2035, which is 1 year later.
So we got
than
some
was
more
previously
time
forecast.
to fix things.
Yeah. So there's a little bit more time to fix things. That's a net positive. I know it's freaky to hear that,
Sure.
2035 is only 10 years away. It's a positive because it used to be 2034. So there's a little bit more time to get a solve in place there.
Gotcha. And Katelyn, that's a great point, about not panicking, because this is going to sound folksy, but I believe it to be true. I don't know of anybody that as they looked back over their life at the end of their life said, gee, I wish I had panicked more and more often. And actually, I learned something today, Katelyn. I have a friend that referred me to a great book called Think Again.
Oh, and yeah.
You know it? Okay.
Was I that friend? Because I just read that book.
No. Oh, actually, it was the spouse of one of our team members who's an author.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And as I was on my Airdyne bike today, listening to it, they talked about the frog in the boiling water. And they said, spoiler alert, the frogs are frequently killed by the boiling water, so they don't jump out. And further, the frog absolutely will notice when it gets too hot and jump out. And yet, that has been a center pole of so much motivational speaking, self-help, and things like that, about how these changes will creep up on you, you don't notice, and the frog will just boil to death in there. So here's score one for the frogs. They are able to notice that this is bad, I'm getting out, and that they are not indestructible. So when they're thrown into boiling water, they don't have that opportunity to react. So don't panic. Okay. Be aware. Make your decisions deliberately and based on all of the data.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. No, that's a very good book. I wondered if I was the one to recommend it because I think I pulled a quote from it for a team meeting, but I'm not sure that you were on
Probably
that
have.
Yeah, it was. It's very good. I really, really like that book. Highly recommend. Think Again. A lot of good stories in there.
Absolutely. Well, folks, that is all the time we have for today, but have no fear. We'll absolutely be back next week to bring you the latest updates you need to make informed decisions about your career and financial well-being as a Fed.
Now, analytics shows us that about 3/4 of you guys who are watching our videos are not currently subscribed. So make sure that you subscribe to this podcast on our YouTube channel and on Spotify so that you never miss an episode. And please do remember to share it with your friends and colleagues. It just helps us boost the signal and reach more Feds.
Indeed. And for more information about the topics covered today and way more, check out our blog at blog.stwserve.com. And if you think about it, subscribe to our newsletter, The Weekly Serving, then we'll ship all the best stuff to you every single week. You don't even have to go looking for it.
Now, for those who want to dive even deeper into learning about your federal benefits and financial planning for Feds, we have a ton of resources for you. I encourage you to join us for one of our complimentary webinars. We've got some really great ones coming up. On June 12th, we have our ever popular early retirement for Feds talk session talking about VERA, talking about discontinued service retirement and everything in between. That's going to be, again, June 12th from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. That's going to be hosted by yours truly. We also have a TSP planning webinar coming up on June 18th. That's going to be from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. with the lovely Jen Meyer.
Ooh, Jen's great.
Oh, yeah. If you prefer a one-on-one approach, you can reach out to our team directly for a financial planning consultation at meetings@stwserve.com, and we'll be happy to chat with you there.
Absolutely. Operators are standing by. So on that note, thank you. Thank you for your service, and thank you for listening to Fed15. I'm Dan Sipe.
And I'm Katelyn Murray.
And we will absolutely see you next week.